you throughout your day. Get connected through United Chat, our personal chat room where you can join the conversation, share your experience, and also submit your questions for Kim. Watch United Network at home or on the go through your computer, favorite online streaming program, or mobile apps.
Welcome to United Network News.
Start your free trial today. UnitedNetwork.Earth, bringing people together.
And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. The creativity of the human mind has been abused by the deep state forever, from patents to cures for disease. Here's how to protect your intellectual property with the CARE organization. Things are heating up, and the jackals are fighting jackals in the deep state as they try to buy more time. Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hello, Cam. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Nice.
We're no longer bailing out the basement, so that's good. Now it's drying. So
I understand you have some fans down there just blowing it away.
They're not going, yay!
Not those kind of fans.
Yeah, lots and lots and lots of, that, dehumidifiers, all kinds of things going on down there. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, so hopefully by Monday, that project will be completed. So I'm only updating you because, I will get back on camera, I promise. Actually, matter of fact, speaking of camera, I do have an interview on Monday night with George the Iceman. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to do a little catch up and looking forward to seeing him again. So that'll be great.
Okay.
So I probably will have to be on there one way or another on Monday. I don't know if it will be in the studio or not, but we're going to give it a go.
Okay. Looking forward to that.
I know. Me too. Very much so. So, all right, let's just touch on a couple quick things that you mentioned in the news.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
I know this is kind of a little bit out there, but plastic bottles,
Mm-hmm.
And the recycling of said plastics. We had thought a lot about this too recently because, we're going to be producing these oils and we have some lip balms and things like that normally come in plastic containers. We actually went and sourced out, other than our glass bottles, of course, where everything, most of the oils come in, but we do have some other things that would normally be in plastic. And we actually sourced out eco-friendly recyclable materials specifically for that reason. We did the same thing with all our shipping materials. It's all recyclable and that kind of thing too. So it can be done. It's not that much more expensive to do that. And right over here to my left is my glass refillable water bottle as well.
I have one over there.
Yeah, which I've had for years. Not the same bottle, obviously. I just keep ordering new ones if they break or that kind of thing. But it can be done, and it is cost effective, and eventually we'll have a replacement for plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been talked about a lot. There's a lot of options out there, but some of them are kind of expensive, at the moment. But we'll see what we can do about that in the future. But it's definitely on the list of things as it relates to the CARE organization.
Okay.
How packaging, bottling, the weight, shipping weights, those types of things. And all the paper we use, those types of things. Can we create a different kind of paper? Of course, we have hemp and we have a lot of other things we're looking at. Same thing goes for building materials. The price of wood or lumber in the U.S. is ridiculous right now for no reason. We didn't run out of trees in any way. So that's definitely part of every single industry in the CARE organization. And something we are definitely looking forward to changing for sure. It'll also cut down on petroleum uses and other things that go into plastic. So, okay, next thing I wanted to touch on is the situation in Mexico.
Okay.
So the situation that we mentioned about the water supplies in Mexico not only applies to Mexico, but it also applies to a lot of other areas in the world as well as it relates to farming. And it's something that is new and is going on behind the scenes. And by new, I mean within the last few years. Ever since BlackRock had announced, they're going to starve us all and increase the prices of food and all these types of things, water usage and retention of water has become an issue. And they've made it so overly complicated that hardly anybody can figure it out. So they say you can collect rainwater, as an example, off of your roof, but only your roof. You can't collect rainwater that falls from the sky into, say, a cistern or something. I know.
So they're purposely making it difficult so people don't know what to do.
So they don't know what to do, and to make it so difficult that you couldn't even come up with a resourceful way of collecting water.
Yeah.
For your farms. And this is specifically targeted toward farms. They are doing everything they can at this moment in time, especially in America, because a lot of our produce comes from Mexico, to starve us all out. And the part about it being the cartels, I don't know if you know this or not, but the predominant producer of, say, illegal avocados and a lot of things in Mexico is actually the CIA. So you could call that a cartel if you'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're trying to put all the other farmers out of business.
Right.
Are they getting anywhere with it? It's harming farmers for sure. It's harming the farms. Is it putting a dent in the food supply like they expected or hoped for? I don't think so. It's a whole non-compete thing that they're trying to do, where, they are desperately in need of money, and this is the way they think they're going to get it, because they do control all of the customs and border patrol worldwide. And that makes it difficult to import unless you're importing through them by an agreement with them, in which case they get a part of your profitability. So hopefully, with some new developments, a lot of these things will end. We'll see. I'm sure that we have a way around it. Let's put it that way. Speaking of a way around things, I'll give you a little update. Last time we talked, they were supposed to put their flags down at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. And 3 o'clock rolls around. They push the conference call till 4, then till 4:30, and then till 5, and then till 6. And everybody was waiting around for this call. And they eventually pushed it off till 6 a.m. the following morning, my time. And everybody got on the call, and they basically said that they've made this tremendous amount of progress, which was a complete and total lie, and everybody knew it. These people are not stupid. And that they just needed to buy a little more time, give them till the afternoon, give them till this. And, and they started spinning lies like you wouldn't believe to these people. But, did they buy what they were selling? I would say for the most part, no. But that didn't mean that these people tend to have a conversation with themselves. You ever meet those kind of people, Sunny, where they're just talking and they're answering you're doing your part of the conversation too?
Where it's all about them. Yes. Yes. Yeah,
it's all about them, and you can't get a word in edgewise, but they give you your answer for you and insert it in the conversation they're having with themselves. And this is just like the conversation that I was overhearing all day yesterday. They inserted themselves in there. They answered for everybody, told themselves that, great, we'll see you on Friday when we pay you, on Friday by noon Eastern time. And, and nobody said anything. Everybody was yelling at everybody for sure. But they didn't hear a word they had to say.
I can't believe there's anyone still listening to these people. Seriously. It doesn't make sense.
Well, so Kim being Kim, that blonde lady that likes to disrupt the world.
The deep
in every
state.
way possible. I had some people that were contacting me, and I know that they were contacting me because they were supposed to contact me on behalf of their generals they speak to and some operative people they speak to and that kind of thing. And I didn't answer for several days. But yesterday, I decided to answer. I'm like, well, I know this person. And about 6 years ago, he was working with one of the generals that flew around in a plane that didn't land.
Oh,
remember
yeah.
planes that don't land and ships that don't dock, generals?
Mm-hmm.
And that's who he worked for pretty much until the day he died. Mm-hmm. But I knew because of that relationship where his phone would go. I mean, it reached out to, I was actually pleasantly surprised yesterday. So there are a lot of people, not just the SSP, Langley 5, your more, your operatives that are more in the loop, those kind of people. But it reached out to a lot of people that have been waiting for things like maybe colonels and generals and people that were waiting for Nasara Jassara, people that considered themselves white hats, people that would consider themselves patriots, people that are waiting for money to come through Trump when he gets back into office. This is another promise that's going to some of these people. This was a talk yesterday. So I started texting with this particular person, and I explained that Trump is dead, because he said, well, Trump will be back. And I said, Trump's not coming back from where he is. And I explained this. I said, Biden's dead. I explained to them that because he started talking about, well, we all need to work together. We need to be friends, I'm texting and I'm like singing, why can't we be friends, yeah. to myself. And I said, in order, for us to consider something, there's a lot of things you need to understand. I explained all the AIs that were dark, that they had limited access to, never full access. I explained that I had done a lot of funding during the 4 years of the Trump administration to the government, and that I would never do that again. And here's why. I explained that the operatives misused all those funds that I had intended, and most of you know the story, but paying off of student loans, all that kind of thing, and how it was all misused, and that I wasn't really interested. And he would make comments like, we need to take over the Treasury, we need to take over the White House and all of those types of things. And I said, for what? I said, the people that are running it are still the same people that are running it right now. I said, I gave money and I dropped, you remember this story where I dropped the little scared Chinese person that we picked up in China that had a machine that was curing COVID a few years ago?
I don't know if I remember this story.
But might have been before your time, Sunny.
Might have been. Yeah.
So when COVID first started, we had figured out that there were a lot of people in China who had been obviously infected with COVID. It started allegedly in Wuhan, which was a deep, deep, dark underground SSP base unto itself, and but the elite, if they did have COVID within a very short period of time, they were fine. Didn't even have a sign of a cold or a flu. Yeah. Kind of thing. So we tracked down this guy that had a machine that could have counteracted the effects and cured everybody of COVID.
Just of COVID? Like it wasn't like a med bed?
Oh, no. It could do a lot more than that. But at the time, that's what I was looking for. Okay. Because people were getting sick, and I was pretty sure it was a synthetic parasite at that point in time. And anything that would have been created by a synthetic parasite, of course, all parasites are synthetic. I don't know if you know that. And so we picked up the Chinese man who had cured, well over a few hundred, if not 1,000 or so people of Chinese elite, and picked him and his machine up and dropped him right at the White House during the Trump administration.
Well, like on the front lawn?
Well, there was a general at the time that we inserted into the White House, full credentials, everything. No one even knew that it was ours.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd inserted this person there. He was on the COVID task force. Yeah. And, he carried all the same credentials of people. How they do things sometimes is when they need you to do really bad things that could get you into a lot of trouble, it is a well-known fact amongst all of those circles, you become what is known as legally dead. So this is a common practice. So what that means is, you have a car accident, you're in a plane accident, there's a body that shows up, bears some of your DNA. It's all done very neatly and all that. And it really looks like you died, just like Ferdinand Marcos allegedly died in the 1980s, but that is not true. And then you go on to live your life. Sometimes you live your life as another person. You have a different identification. And so it's easy to slip somebody into a top position somewhere when you know how that works. And that's how we got our general friend in.
So would that happen, like the whole changing of identity, would that happen after they did whatever nefarious thing that they were supposed to do?
No. See, no, because now that person doesn't actually exist.
Okay.
So
they would do it after.
Yeah, you don't. They change your facial recognition. They change your bone structure because it goes down to the bone now. It's not just your face itself. And with their type of technology, they use it airports, roadways, that kind of thing. And as long as you are legally dead for about 5 years, that's when you can do anything you want to do. Other ways they do it is they will, for example, commit you to a psychiatric facility. And there's logs of you being there the whole time. However, the doctors there are on the take. They let you out at night. You go do bad things. They kill people, do whatever they're going to do. And then they're there for morning check-in.
As you were talking, I was wondering, is this why we have so many cold cases? Because we can't track anything. Like this person's not even in the system anymore.
That's right. Fingerprints aren't there. Everything is wiped clean like they never existed. So you can use that same technique in the reverse and insert people in anywhere you want to go because people will like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were still. Oh yes, I was in deep undercover operation, but I'm back now. And by the way, my new name's Fred, or whatever. And so, we dropped and we can go into those details if it's interesting to you on how they do it. I actually learned this technique from the Russians.
Okay.
Because every single time something was going to happen, the guy that I was working with would go into the hospital. He'd be having heart problems or, whatever it is. So he's there. There's a guy there with his name and the whole thing, and yep.
Because we do hear about, heads of state and people like that. I mean, that happened. I mean, especially with COVID, you'd hear, oh, so-and-so is going into the hospital with COVID. And you're like, is that really happening? And how do you verify something like that?
I know, exactly. And if it's in the news, chances are it's all a lie anyway. So unless it's our news, in which case, then it's probably the truth.
Yeah. Okay.
But yes, they do. So anyway, this general had reappeared during the administration because of all the funding and everything that was going in and out of there. So he was going in and out of there all the time.
Okay.
And so yes, he went and was involved in that, and he picked up the Chinese man and the machine, dropped it right into Trump, and offered funding from us to basically manufacture these machines.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So we paid for the manufacturing of those machines at one point in time, and he used the money for Operation Warp Speed.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Nope.
Where did those machines go?
They never manufactured a machine. The guy, I don't know what happened to the Chinese guy, honestly, and his machine. But, yeah.
There's your beloved Trump, all you Trumpers out there who probably are watching the news right now.
Exactly.
That's Donald Trump for you.
There you go.
What a jerk.
Well, and so I explained all this stuff to this white hat patriot community people. And I said, that's why I said, if we're ever going to have a continuance of government, which at this point, I highly doubt that's going to take place. Mm-hmm. But if we did, we need some serious checks and balances in place, because this is never going to happen again. And I'm not interested in repeating the same thing over and over again. Yep. So these people actually went and verified that all the things I typed on there, that I had done all these things, because I hadn't talked to this person in about 6 years. Okay. So 2017, I think, was the last person so it's been longer. It's been almost 7 years since I talked to this person. And they started verifying if that's what really happened during the Trump administration. And then they went after the Duck Dynasty operatives, the Trump operatives, hard. They're still going after them hard. How so? Well, because these people thought, he was going to come back as the good guy. He's going to do all these things. Nasara Jassara, these people actually believe in this stuff. Right. And by going after them hard, what I mean by that is that they got thousands of phone calls and visits and all kinds of things that started taking place yesterday, especially because the other folks didn't do what they said they were going to do, and they pushed them off again. Mm-hmm. Now, these people are under the impression that there was an agreement that was signed in 2023 where they would receive money and Nasara Jassara and global currency resets coming from the U.S. Treasury Department, or Treasury of USA. And of course, that has not happened yet. And they're being promised money, every day ending in Y. And they continue to do their alleged patriotic duties on behalf of dead people. Yeah. And these are people in the military. I mean, there are people that are pretty high up in the country. So, lots of attacks on those operatives for misuse of funds, and why I won't get involved with governments ever again. And that was explained very clearly from my little fingers on my computer to all their ears, so to speak. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on. We did, last time I was speaking to you, as I was talking to you on the news, I told you that there was a helicopter that came over, very low, military helicopter, and that was some people from the Joint Chiefs of Staff that arrived here. These people arrived here basically because they were told that if nothing happened by 3 o'clock Eastern, so we were having this conversation around probably, I'd say probably 12:30, and 1 o'clock my time would be 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Mm-hmm. And that's when they flew in. So about a half an hour before, because they were expecting them to really put their flags down and let them have meetings with us and try to hash things out for funding for the military.
So that's what the Joint Chief of Staff was expecting on Wednesday, for them to put their flags down at 3 o'clock Eastern.
Yes. Okay. They believed that they were actually going to do that. Mm-hmm. Now, unlike them, we didn't believe it.
Unlike them, we've been through this rodeo many times.
Yeah. I've got the T-shirt, the tickets, I've got everything.
Belt buckle, the boots, everything.
But an interesting conversation did ensue between them and some local people here. Okay. Now, I'm going to take you back a year, if you've been following that long. But do you remember, it was last summer when some of the local people and some other operatives were here, and they were feverishly restructuring things for government purposes, government departments. Do you remember that? We were about to make a deal with the Treasury Department at the time, and they were putting together budgets. And
yeah, I do remember.
They spent several weeks doing this. Remember this? Mm-hmm. And remember I said they did a really good job? I was impressed. They had a better way to do things. And of course, it would involve them, being involved to execute on said plan that they wrote.
Right.
Well, what I figured out at that time, and I don't know if I had mentioned it on the news or not, but I figured out basically they let them put together all of these plans. They thought it was because they were going to be acting, because this is what I said at the time. I said that they would be acting as an enforcement unit. They would come up underneath the umbrella of the GIA, and they would make sure the money went to where it was supposed to go. It would go to, there would be a restructuring. Why do we have all these government departments that we don't need? But the reason why Langley 5 and whoever was around at that time, still alive, told them to do it was because they were going to steal their plan.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
They've spent all this time looking for the money to do it. But here's the rub. These guys are not dumb, and ladies. They're not stupid. They, of course, never gave them the whole plan. That's ridiculous. Who would ever do that?
Yeah, okay.
Just like I don't when I talk about care sometimes. People think I might not know what I'm doing, but I do know what I'm doing. I just am not telling you on a public channel until it is safe to do so. And I know that people are not going to steal everything from me.
Yeah.
I have spent way too much time with other people, including orange people, making claims that they did it. Whatever it is something that I did. There are some sites out there where the SSP reports, YouTube and websites and things like that, and they're already claiming they're doing things that I have done. And I'm like, where are these people? Where are you? I don't remember you at this party on this day doing that. No, I do not. I remember you trying to cling to it with your bare hands for dear life is what I actually remember you doing during that time. So it'll bring me to the reason why I wanted to talk about intellectual property, in care and how it's different. And just wanted to finish up real quick on the deep state. So today is another payday for them, ending in Y. Everybody is screaming at each other. I can't even make out who is going to do what at this moment in time because, we're not too far past noon Eastern Standard Time. And there have been some operatives, secret space program and otherwise, that have continued to work for Langley 5 global headquarters and some people with the black nobility that have been running around trying to hack and trying to come up with anything that they could grab onto to try to get some money from anywhere. No luck. And they're departed. Some of them have departed already, and I'm sure there'll be more to depart later on today.
Sorry, Kim. Are the Joint Chiefs of Staff, are they still in Durango, or did they leave when they realized nothing was happening on Wednesday?
Well, they did have a conversation here. Sorry, I didn't finish that part. They did have a conversation here with the locals, and the locals basically said, look, we have a plan and a way forward, and she trusts us and that kind of thing. And that if we are going to do any kind of military funding, it needs to be with us involved. And, this is what she said, which is true. It is what I said. Now, they didn't like that. So I had to have some conversations last night and explain why I think this is the case. So for a time, one of the Joint Chief of Staff members had a long conversation with the archivists a few months back, and the archivists were giving him information to which he was supposed to deliver to places like Cheyenne, and some of the really dark places, Mar-a-Lago, the places that are known to do bad things against the United States. And pretty much the world, actually, for that matter. And he would go in, he'd tell him the information, they'd smile and nod and entertain him because he is who he is. And then after he would walk out the door, someone from the SSP would come right behind him and tell him, don't listen to these people. You know, he's got no rank and file. I'm a higher rank than you, and pat him on the back and boot him out the door. Next, some of these same people have also made comments about pulling out of certain countries and that they don't have money for wars, and there's, you know, all kinds of different things they're being told that they actually believe. That includes defense national intelligence. Next, trillions of dollars go missing from the Pentagon, and nobody asks why or where it went and who it went to. Predominantly, it went to black budgets of the secret space program every single time, in case you're wondering where the money went. And some black projects with DARPA, black projects with Northrop Grumman, those types of folks. You know, Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, you know, it just go right out the back door and nobody even asked any questions. Now, we can't let that happen anymore. Mm-mm. And we need people that know how to ascertain a real threat. And I also further explained in the nicest way I possibly could that for about a decade, China has been taking over the United States government and all the land here, and trying to get all the mineral resources in the country, and hired a police force out face front in the news in New York State. And you people did nothing. So you don't know anything about security of anything. Not only that, you know, we clean up all the other stuff. They don't know anything. They need an education. And there has to be some people that have an awareness of how all of this stuff works. Like we just talked about legally dead people. You know, they know how that works. I know how it works. The Pentagon doesn't know how it works, and maybe they do. I don't know. But if they did, then they would know that that wasn't Fred. You know, but they let him right in the White House, and that's great for us and bad for them at the time. So, yeah, Fred was one of ours. His name wasn't Fred. It was something else, but leave it at that. So I explained that's why I had this conversation back a year ago, or last summer, I should say, not quite a full year, with these people, because we need global intelligence agency to walk in there, to babysit, to do the forensic accounting, to make sure the money's going where it says it's going, and that people do what they say they're going to do for this money.
Yeah.
You know, I would like you to come and fix the plumbing in my house, let's just say. Okay, great. We're going to fix the plumbing in my house, not my neighbor's house. You're not going to create a plumbing bomb, you know, or some other country or something. You know, that's not what we're doing here anymore. And 4 years of, you know, talking to people. I even talked to the other people during the operatives during the Obama administration too. That was even worse. I mean, it's all the same. Every single one of them is the same. I shouldn't say it was worse. It's the same. And people that have worked for Bush and people that have worked for, you know, all the people that we've seen in our lifetime, the Clintons, and, you know, we know how lovely they are. And really they're just the actors that are in the front for people who are taking orders from people, and operatives who are taking orders from other people to continue doing what they're doing. Now, so we need a check and balance in place. If there's going to be a continuance of government, which right now there is not, because I don't see it happening. You know, if they're going to continue to stand down, just like the Joint Chiefs of Staff people did that were here, because someone said they wanted to buy more time, you will be buying time until you are all toes up.
Yep.
Because 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they're still going to be running on the same hamster wheel that they are on now until the hamster keels over and another hamster takes its place.
Then another hamster in a mask will just hop
another masked hamster. That's right. I didn't even think of that. They'll just put another masked hamster on the wheel.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you got to do, you know.
Yeah.
And there is a definitive reason why that is the case. So you know that we've been working feverishly on the financial system. I mean, very heavily, daily, and it's not just financial systems, it's other types of security and stuff too. But changing the usage of money and the way that money is created, because money is energy. And it's ever flowing from our creator. And whether you put a dollar sign on it or a euro sign, it doesn't matter. In the system, it's still energy converted into matter that you can put in your wallet or your purse.
Right.
That's what it is. Now, the creation of money and into matter, or energy into matter, is actually not done with E equals MC squared anymore.
Right.
It's not. So the conversion process that has taken place to make that money created, to create that money, I should say, with T times E over V equals M in quantum computing, changes the meaning in what money actually is. So the reason why dark groups, dark bloodlines could control monetary systems and money for such a long time, and where the curse came from, and where the sayings like time is money come from, and the way our economic systems were created worldwide in a dark way, all has to do with curses on money, and the base root of that curse is E equals MC squared. It's the same thing with you and your person, because it takes both dark and light to create that money. Money could then be transmuted completely into what we know in our monetary system as M0, a negatively charged zero. Programming. If you know anything about computers or you've watched the movie The Matrix, you will see a plethora of zeros and ones.
Yeah, binary code.
Yes, binary code, making up what we call bytes, which is the base root for all programming worldwide. Well, in the past, a zero would have represented omega, anti-existence, dark time, I mean, you name it, in dark consciousness, dark energy, anti-matter, anti-frequency, everything that is detrimental to your person. And the ones represented alpha and how they worked together back and forth. It was a fusion, so to speak. But the conversion of M0 from a negatively charged zero, and the same thing goes for binary code. The zeros now represent a positive, and a positive charge directly to source.
Okay.
So zeros could have represented in the past, and I'm telling you this because it's tied to what we're doing with care and how we prevent these problems from happening in the future. Zeros in the past would have represented anti-source, anti-existence, dark things. But ultimately, it represented the absence of everything, what you would call the no thing. So in the very center of the ninth density of the lower astral, just past the ninth density, I should say, and just past the ninth plane. So there's a space there called the no thing space. It is full. Well, I call it the no thing. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm sure there's a quantum physics term for it. Some in physics may call it a super void or a void, but it's not really a void because a void would indicate it's the absence of matter. And that's not entirely true. So when you get up to source, you actually have the opposite. Now, what that means is You are basically in an area where there is pure essence, pure light, pure matter, all in one place, with the absence of only one thing, which is distance or frequency. So it's just a solid mass, so to speak, of light.
Okay.
Essence, energy, consciousness, matter, wisdom, love, however you want to say it. And that's what you're looking at. And that would be considered in quantum physics as a zero or a 0 point. There is a place there where it's everything. So it's the opposite. In anti-source, it was the no thing, or a negatively charged zero. And then on the other side, you had a positively charged zero of the everything. All of creation exists in this one little spot, or in this one little God particle, or in this one little spark. And so we actually switched over a while back the meaning behind the zero. So it's now a positively charged zero with a string of numbers attached to it, bringing you all the way to a 9, which then doesn't represent 9 densities, 9 planes, 9 sections of omega anymore. It actually represents the 9 segments of alpha.
Okay.
Divided into 9 by 9 by 9 by 9. So now it's alpha harmonic genesis, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1 of creation. What that means in monetary terms is at the very base root of the creation of money, money is no longer cursed, meaning it's all wholly of source because the equation of its creation is different, which means that it can no longer even flow to anything omega or chronos. Like it doesn't go into a dark AI system for them to then utilize it for dark. There's no transmutation process. Because when something is both, just like within yourself as a person, you can have mostly light consciousness, you can have mostly dark consciousness, whichever one you feed. And it's the same thing with money. You could have registered an agreement at that time in the dark hall of records, and the money could then be converted to be utilized by dark bloodlines for dark purposes. And that's about the best way I can explain it, not using quantum physics in terms that no one would understand. So now it's created in a completely different way, which means in the Hall of Records is ours and the only one that is left. So creation of money in this way can only be used for purposes of things registered in the Hall of Records. If the deep state is watching this and you're wondering why every single agreement you try to submit to the Hall of Records on the daily, all day long, every day, gets rejected immediately, it's because you're trying to put dark energy into a light system. The same that goes for the Hall of Records also applies to the new way money 1, it's actually money 0 as well now, can actually be distributed. And for the purposes of that distribution and why they are trying to file agreements to convert it to the old M0 when that old M0 doesn't exist anymore. That makes sense?
Yeah, I think so.
So I also explained this on this person's phone yesterday as well, which he didn't understand what I was talking about, but the people behind him did. But that doesn't stop them from filing new agreements yet even this morning.
Well, do you know that it actually came from those same people that actually got that information, though?
Word travels fast, and when something is said, it might take a little bit of time, but it always goes up to those same people. Okay. So I'm pretty sure by late yesterday that it actually made it to at least some of them that are still trying to do the opposite.
Okay.
So do they have a hope of switching it back? The answer to the question is no. If And that's why we kind of developed a new process here too. So with care, this will take me into what I was talking about with human creativity. Mm-hmm. So you have a signature. It's like a fingerprint. It's what I would call a living DNA blueprint of your person. Mm-hmm. And that living DNA blueprint will record your history almost like like we're recording this video now. Mm-hmm. And we know, and the system will know, if you created said technology. We've said that in the past. The same way we use the key intelligence and military system to detect if there's harm or there's an event that's going to take place, or recording of conversations and those types of things. Mm-hmm. So with care, there's been a new system that I have been developing now for quite a while now, for several weeks. And it's gotten to the point now where I can actually have this conversation and how it relates to money distribution. But I kind of touched a little bit earlier this week on why these other things aren't going to be possible. But I really didn't give you kind of the base root behind it. And I wanted to wait until the system got to the point where there's no turning back now.
Okay.
And making sure everything was cleaned up. So creation in the system, to where matter creation is now T times E over V equals M. And so money is created this way, has its own checks and balances in place. Now, there are algorithms in there that will prevent the stealing of intellectual property now and in the future. So the way that it will work, in the past, of things like the patent system. Oh, I need to get a patent. I need to do this. Really, all you're doing is turning over your technology to them anyway. Yep. The other thing is your ability to create was actually transmuted into creating darkness a lot of times, whether you know it or not, through those planes that existed between your planes of existence and your person. There were programs that were definitely connected to Omega, which also helped with the creation of dark money as well. That's no longer the case. So no matter how you may try, it will not happen anymore. It will not happen for them. It will not happen for anyone else. And it's an abundantly ever-growing monetary system now. I mean, yes, we currently have a system in place that humans recognize as macro and microeconomic policies, conditions, the issuance of money, flow of money, and those types of things. So all those systems we've already talked about on the front need to be reworked. Now, in order to rework a front-end societal system, because this is just people that believe it needs to be done this way, it's going to take time to convince people that have no idea what we're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. But on the back end of it, the system is pretty well all set up with an algorithm to ensure short-term solutions and long-term solutions through care. So, as an example, let's take our operative people that had this unfortunate incident where they had come up with plans, projects, all kinds of things to fix the government, let's just say. Okay. Whether we do that or don't do that, there's plenty of fixing that needs to happen. The money's just as good. Everything is just as good. So it doesn't really matter how this ends up turning out. Mm-hmm. If they come, they don't come, whatever. The plans are good. We can still use them as interim processes that need to take place to fix political systems. And by political, I don't necessarily mean presidents and White Houses, but we have issues between countries. We have situations between groups of people in countries. Everything has a label, unfortunately, so that everybody wants to attack each other for being of this caliber or that caliber. It starts when you're young. Kids in high school hate kids because they don't have an iPhone and you have an Android phone, and that makes you, a lesser person or something. Yeah. But as far as care is concerned, we know about the ratification process. Now, ratification processes are not just for actual projects or in the case of a few years ago, assemblies, or to ratify governments, again, because they're not ratified at the moment. It actually has to do with money distribution. So the algorithm that we put in place in case of governments, as an example, is that it'll state specifically in there what every dollar is for this budget money. So if there were to be a continuation of government, this is what it is for. Now, if there are classified projects or whatever we're going to call them now, because they're not black projects where we're trying to commit global genocide anymore, that are not supposed to be face front or whatever. And I don't really see a reason for that once you understand the restructuring. Mm-hmm. But if that were to take place, then if the money doesn't go to do X, like mm-hmm. say we're going to have the military manufacture all their own equipment from here on out, and we're going to have programs to where they're going to learn space defense, like real defense. If we're going to pay for defense, then they need to have a hope of actually defending us against something instead of playing movie war like they've been doing all this time. So if the money were to try to go to, say, a Langley 5 or SSP black project that is going to genetically modify humans into oblivion, that money will not go there. It cannot go there. You can't take it out and make it go there anymore. It will not stick.
So is it reading intent?
The money itself is made of T times E. T times E over V equals M now. That's the base programming behind it. Yeah. So every one of those ones and zeros has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 string behind it.
Okay.
So if you try to take that funding and you're not doing exactly what the ratification states, it will not go. You are not going to take $1 trillion out of the Pentagon anymore if that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. See? You cannot say that you are going to create clinics, and in reality, you're creating Frankenstein studios similar to what they are in DUMBs, or were in DUMBs and Nazi concentration camps or something. That's not that. There's no gray area anymore. Literally no gray. So.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the logistics of how this is carried out, though, like in terms that people would understand it today, because today we get money. We put it in our checking account, and there is no accountability for how we use our money, really.
Oh, come on now. There's total accountability for how you use your money. Well, they just put every structure in place so it can only go in one direction.
Oh, well, I mean, as far as, I have money in my account and, I want to use it to do a home renovation. Yes. Like there's no one checking to make sure that I spend $500 on a home renovation. That's what I mean.
No, and on a personal level like that, everything still has a purpose. So in other words, take things like life essentials, which will eventually replace government programs should the government go belly up, like Social Security, like, if you have any kind of state aid or welfare program, like healthcare for, we have assurance for that, those types of things. So let's take that. We ensure that it's a living wage. We ensure that you can actually have a car, have a house, shelter, and eat food and pay bills and do those types of things. And you can live, hopefully in a debt-free way eventually, because that's going to take time for us to learn how that works. But as far as your personal money, I mean, if you, and I highly doubt you would probably do this, I highly doubt you're going to donate 20% of your income, let's just say, to ensuring that a black project comes to fruition. Now, if you happen to do so inadvertently, you think you're tithing to a church, I'm just going to say a church or a religion or something like that, and then that church then decides to donate money to a DARPA black project. Or Northrop Grumman to make chemtrails or something like that, the money won't stay there.
It just disappears?
Yep.
what if the person wanted to use it for things that would cause them or other people harm? It's not necessarily a black project, so to speak, but let's say, drugs or I don't know, something like that.
That's your sovereign choice.
Okay. All right.
It's still your sovereign choice. Mm-hmm. You're not, when you take your kids to the pediatrician or something like that, for example, you don't necessarily mean them harm, and you don't know that maybe this medication there's other options. Like maybe you just don't know. Yeah. It's not you're still not intentionally trying to commit global genocide.
Right. No, I was referring to like street drugs.
No, I know what you meant. I know what you meant.
Okay.
But that's also your personal choice. That's your sovereign choice.
Yeah.
And who knows if the situation changes with cartels, like, will there be a place for that anymore? Will that be a part of our society in the future? But it's like I said, things take time.
Yeah.
Are there ways to do this without going through detox and all those kind of things that your body goes through and repairing your neural receptors so that you could just decide you don't want to do this anymore and then have this natural treatment or your version in your mind of a med bed or something like that and reprogram things? Sure. Is addiction a program? Yes, it was a program. Is it possible to eliminate that program? Yes, it is. Does it have physical effects on your body because they've genetically modified you so that it does? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. So there's a lot of things that can happen in the future through care for that. But part of it, the problem I'm mainly trying to solve at this point in time is, we're not going to give large sums of money for a project and you tell me you are going to build rainbows and sunshine, and then I see a war erupt and with the same money. So the problem we had during the Trump administration when we were giving funding, or in 2018 when I funded every government, or in 2010 when I funded every government, will never, ever happen again. That's my point. You contract for something, and I'm not that concerned about you, the people. People are going to buy guns. People are going to this is your sovereign right, your sovereign will. You make choices. You could make poor life choices, and this is not a social crediting system. And you're not a threat to the light system, as a whole.
Yeah.
And eventually society will correct itself, but it's going to take 10 solid years before that happens. Okay. But I'm talking about large scale projects. If you are going to get funding to turn make the oceans green or something like that, or clean the oceans and clean the oil spills, do this, do that, then you need to do it. You need to not put that money into torching an oil producing country or something like that. Mm-hmm. Things will be done fairly with care money, and there will be human checks and balances in place as well. And this is what I said. So even on, an operative level, maybe we don't have continuance of government, but there's still an oversight that is going to happen in an enforcement unit. I am not going to, knock on your front door because you bought 20 gallons of ice cream and you're single and you live by yourself. If you want to eat 20 gallons of ice cream, eat 20 gallons of ice cream a week. I don't care. I care, of course, that's probably not the best solution,
But still your choice. Yeah.
But it's your choice.
Sovereign choice. Yes.
It's your sovereign choice to do that. If you want to do home renovations, do home renovations. Mm-hmm. But, chances are, you're living in such a way in the future, and we're talking 5 to 10 years from now, where you're not having to save up to do something because it's there. Mm-hmm. If you need it, it will be there. Once you learn how to connect to the alpha system yourselves, which you are more than capable of doing, and I know this sounds crazy, and there'll probably be a training class at some point in time to teach people how to do this, but once you actually are able to do that, your intention is already there. Mm-hmm. Now if there are extreme cases here. And that's where the key intelligence and military system comes up to play. You go to your grocery store and you read the anarchist handbook and you decide you're going to make a bomb because you hate your neighbor, mm-hmm. or something like that. That's an extreme situation that'll be picked up on by the key intelligence and military system in the future when we have more hands on deck. So there has to be more people doing this with that system in order for it to function the way it needs to function, meaning that once we are ready for that we can now employ other people to monitor situations in their regions and areas, kind of like your police were supposed to do in your respective area. And I use the word supposed to for a reason. Mm-hmm. So it'll take time for that to happen. So it's not a today thing. I mean, the only reason why we're able to connect to, for example, the local systems here and Langley systems and government systems has to do with them all being on a higher density in computers in the first place, where it's easier to reach right. At that stage in the game. So it will come and it will happen. But as far as projects and stuff are concerned, because it does have the living DNA registration, we will know if it's your technology or not. We will know if it's your intellectual project or not. In other words, your property. So like these guys that put together this whole plan, I would know it's not Langley's plan. Mm-hmm. Money would never go there for that purpose. It'll only go to the other people because that will actually be ratified. We are hiring you to clean this, do mm-hmm. this. You are going to do this, and for that, the money will continuously flow to ensure you can continuously do this. Mm-hmm. So CARE, also has other features as far as ratifications of technologies. Now, the patent system puts your name, your company, your, person in there, and it's out there for the world to see. Now, that can put for the next 5 to 10 years, because I told you these people are never going to get off a hamster wheel until they just drop dead, from running in the circle. So as far as CARE is concerned, ratification of technologies will be done in a little bit more of a protective way for the collective whole of all scientists that work there. Mm-hmm. In other words, if you are a scientist and you work for the Research and Development Center, royalties for the sale of said technologies, in other words, the industrialists come into play, they industrialize it. Now it's either for personal home use or industrial use in some way, whatever that technology is. It could be a cure for something that needs to go into all hospitals, but there's still a monetary system here. Things will still be bought and sold. Mm-hmm. The funding behind that is all in, like, let's say if it's a medical technology, that's all under the assurance plan anyway. So it doesn't matter to you personally whether you have access to this medical care item, medbed otherwise, whatever you call them, or not. Now, when that commerce happens, there's a royalty that'll be paid out to the research and development centers, so they eventually become independent, and then can also fund subsequent universities to train new scientists to work in the research and development center. And it's not an inclusive thing, meaning, some people will like, oh, that's socialist. No, it's not socialist. It's a cooperative effort. It's more of an ESOP or cooperative model whereby all the royalties, the patent is registered, not a patent because we're not going to register patents, but the technology will be registered to the center. Mm-hmm. And all parties will be paid for that. So it's like, it doesn't matter if there's 10,000 scientists, everybody's getting a part of everybody's everything. So we don't have to be worried about that anymore. And it kind of negates the patent system, the stealing of technologies. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many technologies I've had presented to me that I'm like, that makes no sense.
And it also allows the researchers to work on multiple projects and not feel like, it's like now they probably feel like, oh, I've got to do this and then I got to protect it and it's mine, because that's how the system is set up. But if you have more of a cooperative environment where it's like, hey, bring Bill over here because Bill knows a little bit about this and he could probably tell us how to do this much more effective. Then Bill comes over and does it. And then, Nancy knows how to do this. And it just, you're using everyone's talents, to their best ability.
Or even better, what about Vladimir? from Russia, or,
That's right. I used very American names, didn't I?
well, I'm just the point, or Fernando from Honduras or something. I mean, the point here is that there'll be one in every single country, and you can see everybody's research all the time.
Yeah.
But as far as recognition for the technology in the public market, it could be any one of a million people. Nobody knows.
Right.
Once that changes, if there's external public recognition for work well done, for curing this or doing this, then, that kind of stuff is possible. But right now it's all about security of funds, making sure that the industrialization of it gets out there, that we can actually put it in hospitals, people understand it, training classes, trade schools, because doctors are going to need to go back to school. There's going to be technologies they know nothing about. And there's continuing education for doctors now. So it's not something out of their wheelhouse or abnormal if a new technology is introduced. So there's a process, and there's also a psychological process that's going to happen. How do we get people to understand that, this here will regenerate your pancreas. You don't need an organ donation. And by the way, you don't have diabetes anymore. How do we explain that to people? It's an education process, and it's part of education under care.
Right.
There's educating the people. There's educating children. There's educating new parents. There's education for nearly everything. How do I sew a button on my shirt? That's education. Seriously. I mean, it all kind of rolls together, and projects we need to teach everybody in the world to sew a button on their shirt. I think it's important that everybody knows how to sew a button on their shirt. If the button falls off, maybe we won't have buttons in the future. Maybe we all switch to Velcro. I have no idea what's in store for people that have been in the clothing industry for, decades. What is possible in the future and what we decide to do. But for now, I think that's a good idea. And there'll be funding, or it'll be ratified in the Hall of Records, because everybody should know how to do that. We had home ec as kids, and then they stopped all those programs. Nobody knows how to cook anymore. Maybe we need to reintroduce some of those programs. And even if it's just for fun, you've not really cooked. Maybe your spouse has always cooked or something. You're now divorced, or your spouse is not here, and you want to learn how to cook, and you can go to school anytime you want and learn how to cook. I want to learn how to bake bread. I want to learn how to grow grain, mill it, and make flour, and then make bread. I want to know how to do that. All those programs fall under the ratification process, and the algorithm that goes into that. So if you're teaching people how to cook, that's great. If you're teaching people how to make Molotov cocktails in your kitchen, no bueno, not going to work out for you. The program, there'll be either somebody else will come in, there'll be a warning period, you get 30 days to rectify the situation, that kind of thing. But the money that they paid for all the chemicals for the Molotov cocktails are going to go away. Like that goes away. It's not going to stay there.
When you say it goes away, like let's say they already paid a supplier for the goods. Does it then disappear from the supplier's account? Oh. Yep. So they could be on the hook for that. They don't have the money for it if they, wanted to.
Not my problem.
I know. No, I realize, but that's different. Okay.
That's not my problem.
Okay.
No one spends, quote unquote, for example, that much money on things like Drano, unless you are manufacturing methamphetamines or something.
Yeah.
There is a limit, to things. And so with that being said, yes, I guess in that particular case, but this guy signed up for, this lady that you're referring to signed up to educate people on how to cook in a certain area of the world, insert country here, it doesn't matter. The money is not being utilized for that. People are learning to make weapons. This is not what we signed up for. That's a different department in a different division. We're not doing that now.
Yeah.
So it's not the case of you deciding that you don't like your neighbor's house and you went and bought the Anarchist Handbook and now you know how to make Molotov cocktails and now you're going to make a few of them and throw them at your neighbor's house because you don't like them. That's what gets picked up in the key intelligence and military systems. Say, okay, all right, little human, no,
Yeah.
Little human, no.
And then does that also impact their ability to get funding for other projects? Is there like a ding on their record or something like that?
Oh, yes. Yes. And they're given plenty of fair warning to rectify their situation. This is what cooking means. Maybe we weren't clear,
Okay. Yeah.
Cooking means food items prepared in a whole new way for your enjoyment and nourishment of your body.
Okay. Yeah.
Not crystal meth or something like that. But
right.
There are additional things and functions as far as the algorithms go, and this just gives you a general idea of how that is going to work and how a lot of it is pre-programmed to do things that are meant for restoration of Earth. And your account is tied to the Hall of Records directly. So, there's obviously if you're receiving money, you're under the Essentials program as an example. If you're receiving money, you're under this program. Healthcare, you're a doctor, you've received money, down the line from Assurance and the insurance program. Those types of things. So there's if you are working for a company and you are baking bread and you receive a paycheck for that, that's obviously part of the ratification process too, as to why Sunny has received this money, because she's a baker and she works for the big baking factory, that was funded by CARE. So, but it's not meant to be a social crediting program, so please don't take me the wrong way. It's more meant to just make sure, to the best of our ability, that on a corporate level, when you're receiving money from CARE to do something, then you need to do it.
You need to follow through.
That's right. And so does the deep state, even if they keep running on a hamster wheel, and when one falls off and keels over dead from running for so long and the next one jumps in the wheel, is that going to affect your CARE project, your CARE money? That's part of it. Now, the other part of it is physical protection. How do you protect patent holders? How do you protect people that create, cures? Or how do you protect volatile technologies from being stolen or intellectual property from being stolen? At this moment in time, internal records of CARE are kept in a system so secure they still haven't been able to get into it. Right? So we know who does what. We know who's doing the thing and royalties being paid out and that kind of thing. But to the deep state, this looks like a giant group of millions of people with rotating names as far as systems or anything else are concerned, and blueprints and that kind of thing. And are they going to steal our stuff? No. Is another country going to want to steal our stuff? Like you see all the spy movies and they're stealing Russian technologies from Israelis or something like that. What's the point? What would be the point of that? Everybody is involved now. And if you want access to that pool of technologies, then your nation is going to join. It is beneficial for you to do that. In communist countries right now, it doesn't look like that's a possibility, or socialist countries. It doesn't look like that's a possibility because everything is run and owned by the government. Well, if that is the case, then you'll need to rethink your structure and your process, because quite frankly, you're broke and I don't really care, at this point. Stay, go, follow the hamster wheel, people going round and round, and eventually you'll run out of steam. You won't be able to pay your electric bill. All your equipment and your infrastructure is going to fall apart and fall down, and that'll be the end of your country. And everybody else, the humans that live there aren't subject to that. They can move out elsewhere.
Yeah.
As passport systems change and traveling changes and citizenship changes and systems are easily, changed by the Global Intelligence Agency, and who is going to monitor those systems, and who's going to make sure you're not getting on the plane with a bomb or something like that. All those things can be monitored in various ways by various people, but that's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to point that out about care. That there is a process in place to ensure for your protection and for everybody else's at this moment in time to live in a world where the deep state might still be running around on hamster wheels for a long time, because they're like cockroaches. You kill one, 5 more show up. So there's, or there someone else shows up in a hamster mask, wearing
hamster mask,
looking like the last hamster that died, and now he's running on the wheel for the other guy that died. So, yep. How long are they going to play this game? I don't know. And quite frankly, we need to put ourselves into a position security-wise that we just don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people understand that too. I think, at least our audience, if they felt like they could move forward with their projects, I think very few people would really care about what the deep state is doing. I still see a lot of messages posted on Telegram, not just Telegram, even on our app, about why are we waiting for the deep state? Why, so I think there's a misconception there about what's actually going on, that we're not waiting for the deep state. There's clearing that's happening and cleaning that's happening, so we can move forward. And I think once people, and the security is part of that, the stuff that you just talked about is obviously part of that, and that has to be in place. But once people feel like they're not, because I think mentally they still feel dependent on these people because it's everywhere, right? It's in our mainstream media. It's just inundating us. It's in our healthcare system and our education system. And it's like you can't escape it.
Yep.
But once there is an alternative, then I think you're going, to see a lot of people not care. Like they just become irrelevant,
Yeah. Well, if we do it right, okay, and I know people are saying we don't want to wait for the deep state. Well, I don't want to wait for the deep state either. I really don't. But I also don't want to be responsible for doing something that is going to cause you harm or your family harm.
Yeah.
That's kind of important that we don't do that. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as they are concerned, I have to figure out ways, and this is what I've been trying to do. Well, still monitor what they're doing, because it's important for us to know.
Yeah.
It really is. If something's coming, they're trying to crash this or do that. I hear all the rumors too. I see it all over, rumor mill news and before it's news and, Nasara Jasara and all this kind of stuff. I see it all, Yeah. I scan through things while I'm drinking coffee with one eye open in the morning. I mean, I do, just to see what's happening out there and what they're telling all of you. So, it's important to kind of monitor what's really going on behind the scenes so you can understand it, and wrap your mind around it. We've lived in the dark for so long. We're the mushroom society. We need to not be mushrooms anymore, and we need to start facing some truths and understanding why we're seeing this happen and what's the purpose of this and how it works, so that we collectively as a group, as humanity, will see the signs if it happens again. So if we can't stop the masked guys coming from reappearing, the undead being dead, undead, and then dead again, I don't know. We have to do something else. And that's why I started building these algorithms, because I'm like, how do I protect people's money? What is the bank going to freeze their money? Is somebody going to try to steal the money? They got people on the inside working at banks. Yes, they do. How do I get around it? And so that's kind of an overview of part in a small portion of using technologies as an example of how I can prevent that from happening in the future. But these systems don't build themselves. It takes time.
Yeah.
And there is a care system developed for everything, for draw schedules, if you're used to construction, annual payments on production contracts, for whether that be for farmers or for cars or vehicles, those kind of things, for care. There are monitors in there in the key integrated monetary system for all of that, where everything's transparent, and you could actually go in eventually in the future and actually look up the CARE website on your computer. It'll be connected to this, and you can see what kind of projects are going on in your country, your area, your region. There'll be marketplaces that'll be much larger than the one we're making right now, that will actually, where you can go in, and if you're a farmer, and you can buy grain directly from another farmer in another area. You can, there's no futures market to be concerned about. This, all these things will go away in the future, and we just need to figure out a better way to do it. And so that is all being built. So there's nobody, we don't need, it's built with a quantum system that can calculate 150 billion transactions or bits of data per second. So we're good. We're good on our side. We just need to figure out a way to connect it so that people can actually utilize it in a way. Some people will have read-only access to it. Some people might have administrative access to it, that kind of thing. But it's well thought out and well planned out, and ready for people to kind of walk in and make it easy. You might be a farmer, but maybe you've never done finance before. Maybe you've never looked at different ways of doing things other than we get, crop insurance, we get this, we get that, and now we're a commercial farmer. It's more to it than that, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Or I've got to insure my car. How do I insure my car? I can't drive on the road without insurance. We need to, or construction costs. It's always done this way. We've always sourced our materials this way. But there are better ways of doing everything we do right now. And like you said, no matter which way you turn, you're feeding the deep state in some way, shape, or form. Either some company that makes shampoo, or it's a distribution company that they run, that, or you're going through Customs and Borders Patrol, because you have to ship your product from one country to another. No matter what you do, you're not going to escape them at this moment in time. And it was built that way by someone who is no longer here. I stress that to the people that are still trying to maintain control over a system they never controlled in the first place. And I can guarantee you, if these people didn't create the war that, let's just say the people that used to run Omega, that the people that used to run Omega ordered, then you wouldn't get any funding. There would be no more funding for you, and you would probably be dead by morning. So that's how their system used to work. Now, unfortunately for us, governments understand this. And hence the reason why I say, without enforcement of people that know what they're doing, there's no hope of ever cleaning a government anywhere. And we're not doing this roundy round thing, where we pay for aid for Hurricane Michael victims, and it ends up going into, some deep state company's pocket, BlackRock or somewhere else, or Soros Open Society Foundation. That happened before to me too. So no, not anymore. But moving on, moving up, moving forward into the future. I know people are frustrated with the deep state. I'm frustrated too. Everybody is frustrated at this point, and even their own people are frustrated at this point. But they still are looking for that needle in a haystack. If there isn't even a needle in a haystack anymore, Yeah. We tried going down level by level. Now we are the only planet officially in the entire multiverse that has stupid people that still would like the dark to come back. The only one in existence.
So wait, explain that a little bit. So we obviously had other planets that had bad, whatever, beings doing stuff on those planets, but all that's been eradicated. There's no other planets that have
those beings were not humans.
Ah.
And we are a nexus planet.
But could it have been like another species, let's just say? Could it have, maybe not humanity, but maybe something, like humanity on, their density or dimension?
Most of the places had similar problems to that we did. In the way that for example, Draco or somebody was there, and it probably was more of a tyranny. Do they have beings on those planets that are quite like humans? I would say that the genetic modification of the human being and the human mind on this planet was probably like no other.
Interesting.
Humans are unique. And that's why humans ended up on Earth in the first place. We are a unique species in a lot of ways, in our capacities to do certain things and to tolerate certain things and to exist in this density. There are and have been other planets in the third density. And once I finish the real the real history of the world, we became the only planet left in the third density that was inhabited or habitable, and everybody went elsewhere.
When you say went elsewhere, what does that mean? Like
either they managed to escape and went to another solar system somewhere, or they were brought somewhere by the parties that took over that planet, such as Earth. As an example, as a slave.
Okay.
Slave labor in other locations, like harvesting their planets and that kind of thing. So I think that happened, I think it was about 85,000 years ago or something like that. If I remember correctly, we became the last third density planet. That had not been destroyed or taken over. I know. Yay for us.
Yay for us.
Yay.
I didn't realize that, because I knew at one point there were other planets that were kind of going through the same process that Earth was, but I guess I didn't realize that there weren't other beings on that planet that were slaves like humanity was slaves here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Completely. So there were also other planets and other densities, too, that were inhabited that still had the same problems we did, but probably to a lesser degree. So big changes are happening, good things, positive things. We are moving forward, even though it looks like we're not. Is the deep state moving forward? No. Are they still going to put out fear? Yes. Are we going to do anything about that? No. Are they going to be able to start World War III? No. Are they going to continue what they're doing in the Middle East? I don't know. How many people are still going to follow them? I don't know. How long is it going to be before governments fall? I don't know. If it wasn't for those Chinese bonds, they wouldn't have been carrying on this long.
So as of now, when we look at the deep state, their deadlines that they set for each other.
Oh, they lie.
Of course they lie, but I think you said the next one to expire, if I look at my clock now.
Yep.
Did you say it was 3 p.m. Eastern, which is right about
It
now?
was about 3 hours ago.
Oh, so it's 12 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. Then they'll bump it up to 3, and then they'll probably do a conference call at 4. And then they'll roll it over to Monday or the next, I don't know when the next new moon is, or full moon or something like that.
So is there any group now or individuals or operatives that you feel are wanting to work with us? Or have we just been like, okay, you guys are just...
As far as the deep state folk?
Yeah, as far as the deep state. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I am... there's still some people that are in and around them, I should say, but the other people are pushing back really hard.
So even the cartels, we've talked a lot about them.
No, They've kind of been pretty quiet, probably due to the Black nobility's involvement. There were a lot of threats flying around yesterday, though. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
hopefully we'll see them surface soon. As far as the cartels are concerned, right now I can't make heads or tails of what they're doing.
Yeah, you said everyone's
It
just
looks like
fighting.
Harry Carey, like
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Onward to Monday.
Okay.
See you
Thank
Monday.
Kim.
Hopefully,
All right,
see you.
Oh yeah.
And you can
Hopefully
see
we'll be
me.
on. Yeah, we can see you. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks, Sunny.
Want to share news from UNN? Help us change the face of social media and use it for good.